we're live.
Live?
I mean, we're back.
Back.
Sorry, get confused. We're back, fresh from Vegas, fresh win. So this is a happy podcast.
You got some battle scars.
A couple battle scars, not too bad.
No.
Actually, it's funny because sometimes I get like, this is not that bad for a fight. No. And so today I went out and it was my first time like going out in public. I guess at the airport, but at the airport it's different because like I feel like I have my braids in. It's the day after the fight. You have like we have our UFC bags. You had a UFC sweatshirt. So I feel like if people look, they kind of associate like, oh, something's going. But even if they don't know I'm a fighter, they're like, there's an athlete or involved or wearing like stuff. But today, I left the house and my first stop was the gas station, and I go to the one down the street. And I go to this one all the time because it's where they actually pump the gas for you.
Oh, this is where it was.
And so it's the same guy I see. I only get my gas there all the time. And he sees me go there. He sees you go there. He sees us go together. So I give him the card. I was like, oh, can you fill it regular? And he's like, is everything okay? And I like didn't understand at first. I was like, oh, no. I'm like, yeah. Everything's good. I was like, I'm a professional fighter. And
you said that to him?
Yeah. Oh. Because I knew what he meant. I was like, I'm a professional fighter and I just fought on Saturday. And he was like, oh, okay. And like, didn't really laugh about it or say anything. But I mean, that's like a legit, it's not even like, oh, I got hit and I fell or something like that. And then it's like, it made me realize then
I walked into the refrigerator door.
Yeah, it slipped and fell on a banana peel. But then it's like, that's how I started the day. And I was like going to run errands. So like my favorite, it's kind of become a ritual the day after my fight. If I'm like at home, I just ball out at Costco.
Yeah, you went pretty hard.
I just was like anything, boom, boom, put it all
it's
in.
It's like a lot of work bringing that stuff in from the car.
Yeah. So then I was like, normally I don't care about the black eyes, but then I kind of got me like a little insecure. So then I just wore sunglasses. But then I get like a lot of stares because I'm wearing sunglasses and I have my hair in braids. So it's like, but people are like, I don't think the black eyes are bad, but people will stare and like give dirty looks nonstop.
I mean, I get it though, because when do you see any girl with a black eye ever? It's super uncommon aside from fighting.
Yeah. And I think it's almost worse because I'm older. I think if you're like a kid and you have a black eye, there's more of a chance like playing sports or something. I don't know. Even then, it's just black eyes, but people just stare.
People are concerned.
Yeah. So I wore that. And then I got my lashes redone because they all fell out in the fight.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's the worst part for you.
Yeah. Some fights I have and they come out and they look fine. And then other fights for whatever reason, but in the first round, when I took her down, I held her in side control and I looked to my left and like a foot away, I saw a clump of my lashes. I was like, oh, hell no. Ugh. But whatever, it's expected. That's why I made my appointment for Monday after. So
basically your eyelash is done like twice in a week.
Yeah. Right? Usually I go like every 3 weeks, but I had to go after the fight. I have to go a week later.
Right.
But it's okay. It's a lot better getting your eyelashes fixed when you won the fight than if you lost the fight. That sucks.
Worth it.
So
really big win. I thought that it was much more dominant than the first time you fought her. The first time you like totally outclassed her. She didn't hit you at all, but it was more like, just a savvy win. Mm-hmm. And she, won one of the rounds on the judge's scorecard. It was a 29-28 decision on one of them, the third round. This one, after the first round, I was like, all right, 1-0. Then after the second one, I was like, I have it 2-0. Mm-hmm. But then you just kept fighting really hard in the third. And it was like you kept trying to stay in the pocket, go for the finish, because you could have just been elusive and just avoided, risk. But I thought you did like amazing. And it's just like crazy to think like you're now on a 3-fight win streak. You've won 4 of your last 5. The only fighters you've lost to in the last 2 years are UFC champions. Mm-hmm. It's crazy how well you're doing. I mean, it's not like just build up bonfire, but it's really remarkable to me. And like, I just feel like you keep getting better.
I mean,
I really do.
I always say that, but going into a fight, I think every fighter says the same thing. I've gotten so much better. I'm really developing, but like, I really feel like my last couple of fights, I'm like, when I train, even if it's stuff I don't show in the fight, I know I'm getting better. Like, I know, I think sometimes fighters this was my 14th UFC fight. Like, I don't know why, but this time it really sunk in. I was like even when my last one, it was my 13th, which is still a lot, but that didn't really feel like anything. But now I'm like, oh my God, this is my 14th UFC fight. Like, that's insane. That's so many. If you would have told me I was going to have that many, I didn't even have 14 pro fights when I got into the UFC. Well, I had 7.
Yeah,
so twice as many now. And it's just like, it's weird how it just creeps up all of a sudden. And I'm like, wow, like, when did that happen? Because I still get the feeling, the excitement, the nerves, and like everything, just like I did for my first fight. It never really changes.
Right.
I definitely get more professional. Certain things with training, I've matured in, but like the actual fight, it's still, overall, the whole feeling is still the same. Like, I haven't lost any motivation, any fire, anything. I haven't lost any motivation in training. If anything, I get more motivated in training because I'm becoming smarter and I know what things I need to do to get better. And I take a different approach where I'm like, okay, if I get better, as you get better at things, it narrows it down. So like, this specific thing I need to get better at. And I love focusing on that and seeing my improvements in that area.
And it's really funny to see how getting better at one thing can really, really, really improve your ability in something else. For instance, your takedown defense has become so good that now you don't have to be on your bike the whole time. You could sit down on your punches, stay in the pocket, because you used to be a little nervous to get taken down.
Right.
But as your takedown defense and your grappling gets better, your power punches are going to be better because you stand in the pocket. Like Kamaru Usman, he's knocking everyone out now because he doesn't really have any fear that he'll get taken down.
Exactly.
Right. He could just stand in front of the person and, sit on his punches.
Like Gagey, Colby Covington,
right.
They all have that same thing.
The guys who have really impeccable takedown defense can really put a lot on their punches. And I feel like that's something that I've seen in your fighting the last 18 months go from like, pretty good, like maybe like a C+ to now it's like an A.
Yeah.
It's really, really improved.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I kind of knew going into this fight for whatever reason. I was just like, I feel so confident, and it felt confident in training, not just like not confident for the specific fight, just confident in my abilities. Like, even when I would go to jiu-jitsu class, wrestling, boxing, whatever training session I was doing, I was feeling really good and confident. And like, I kind of felt like, without sounding cocky, I felt like I'm good. Like, I'm really good. And like, I know it and I'm improving. And I think having that attitude, I don't know what it was. And all of a sudden, like, early on in this camp, it just kind of clicked. I don't know what it was. There wasn't anything specific. I just felt like, all right, I don't know. I think I like bumped a level mentally in my game where like the confidence was key, you know?
It's pretty crazy because like how mentally strong you are, like people don't know. We could say now, like 2 weeks outside the fight, you had COVID and you were, legit sick for, a full week.
Yeah.
And that's 2 weeks out. But it's like we've talked about before. You've had so many deposits in the bank.
Yeah.
You can afford to be sick. You can afford to have a small injury. But that doesn't even like phase you. You weren't like, well, now I might get tired. It didn't even phase you at all. That's
a perfect example. I think if that would have happened to me like a couple years ago, it would have freaked me out. And I would have been like, I need to get the fight pushed back. I can't fight my cardio, because this is the second time I've had COVID, and you can think like I wasn't super sick, but when you go to train,
you feel it.
I'm like, oh, I'm fine, whatever. All right, go to work out, and I cannot breathe. Like, your cardio is completely shot. But I just knew if this was a couple years ago, it would have like freaked me out. I would have been crying, upset. What do I do? Oh my God, I don't know. This is my last like hard week of training, and I'm like gassed out. It would freak me out. But I was just like, whatever, at least I have it now and not for the fight. So I know I'll be good by the time fight comes. So I won't have to worry about, testing positive and not being able to.
And that's a big relief.
Yes. It was more of a relief. And if anything, I had to take a couple of days off, and it was probably like helped me a little bit more.
Right. But that's kind of how I ended up in your corner, because maybe he got it from you, whatever, who knows. But your coach, Ryan Cafaro, tested positive the day he was supposed to leave. So he didn't even get to make it out, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Vegas.
as soon as like the weekend before, because we had to get tested, we leave on a Tuesday before the fight. Monday, we have to get tested. And that weekend, he was like, I feel like I have a little tickle in my throat. And then he did an at-home test. He's like, oh, it's positive. Hopefully by Monday night, it'll be negative. But he was still positive, so he couldn't come. But over the weekend, when I'm like, oh, I probably definitely gave my cornerman COVID. I was like, I didn't think this far. I'll be good. But I was like, I was with all three of my cornermen at the same time. And I was like, what if I gave my whole entire corner COVID and now I have no corner? But honestly, I was like, you could go. And if not, we talked about it, that we're like, because what if I gave you COVID and you just didn't know?
But we talked about it even on Tuesday while you were out there. I was like, well, there's probably someone out there who will be in your corner, and you were okay with that.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, there's I recognize that coach. Random like Henry Hoof or Jason Krause, who are people who are always around. You were ready to just go in a fight with any random person.
Yeah, I actually had like asked James Krause.
Did you?
Yeah, I was like, hey, are you going out to fight week? And he's like, yeah. I was like, there's a chance. I'm like, I didn't
know you did.
Yeah, and then I gave one of them COVID. I was like, if the other one can't, I was like, because I figured Mark doesn't come till later, so even if he had it, he would be over by then. I was like, do you think maybe I could get pad work if my other, because Sarge and Ryan come with me the whole entire week. Mark doesn't come till the end, so they, you need them for weight cutting, holding pads the whole week. And I was like, can I get pad work? But then Sarge was good because
she passed,
and I figured she would, because she had COVID in October. Her fight got canceled then. So the rule is, if you test positive but you can prove that you've had COVID within the last 90 days, they let you go.
Well, and now they changed the rule again. When I got out there, I think the day I got out there, there was new legislation that is, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to get tested.
Yes.
So now they're going to have people fully vaccinated with COVID fighting.
Yes. Well, I wonder if you still would have had to in the beginning of the week.
I don't think so. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to get tested. That's what they told me.
Yeah. It's funny because as the week went on, the rules got a lot looser. Right. In the beginning, I think like four fights got scratched because of COVID. And then usually we test when we're there. Then last time we get tested is Friday morning. We have weigh-ins, we get tested, and we have to quarantine at the hotel until after the fight. So Thursday night, the UFC calls me, and usually like they always text you during fight week and stuff. So I get a phone call. It says Zuffa, and I'm like, oh man, something happened. Usually if they call you, it's not good. I answered. I was like, what happened? And they're like, no, it's good news. It's Thursday night. You can come and get tested now. So then that way you don't have to worry about it, and we're not going to make you quarantine. I was like, that's weird. They changed the rules like that. I think they wanted to make sure no one had it. And then when they said, they're like, oh, if you're vaccinated, you don't even have to get tested. I was like, wow, they're really changing up the rules, because I think so many fights fell through.
That's great.
But
it's
that's
like
amazing.
A step towards normalcy.
Exactly. So, but yeah, it worked out. So then luckily we knew Ryan had COVID early on in the week, and you were obviously going to come out to Vegas anyway with my parents and my family to watch the fight. So they're like, do you want to replace your cornerman? I was like, absolutely. I'm like, he's already coming out Friday. Can we just add him in? Added you in, and it was perfect.
Yeah, it was. But it was just such a good testament of your mental strength that stuff doesn't rattle you. It doesn't matter. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I need this coach and this workout partner and this,
Obviously, I prefer
all you need
that.
is your mouthpiece.
Yeah, I prefer that. I was like, I don't care. I just need someone in my corner, because commission probably requires you to, and I just want someone to give me water. They don't need to tell me anything in between rounds. I prefer to have that, but I don't need that.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people asked me, they're like, oh, are you going to be okay in the corner? Because I've watched fights with our friends and family, and I'm always so nervous. I can't even sit still. I'm pacing back and forth in the house. I watch it in another room away from people. And they're like, how are you going to corner her? But when I was in your corner, I wasn't even nervous at all, because you can't show that you're scared, or, worried. You can't show that. You have to be like, you're part of it then.
Yeah.
So I have to pretend to be like, 100% confident, which I am, but
You can't show
when
you're
you're not there, I'm much more pessimistic.
Yeah.
And like worrisome. But I was able to just like not even think about that. And I felt like just any other corner.
And do you think like
cool.
when you're there, you can see me warming up, so you almost get a feel for it, like she looks good, she's ready. When you don't see it, it's like I usually text you before I leave the hotel. All right, I'm getting on the bus. And I turn my phone off before I go. I'm usually, it's always such a eerie thing. That's when it sets in, I think now, when you're usually not there. And we walk to the shuttle and I text you. I'm like, all right, I'm going to the arena. I'm going to turn my phone off. I'll call you after I win. Right. I always say that. And then when I turn my phone off, I'm always like, oh, here we go. It's like, you know what I mean? But I didn't, it was kind of funny because I texted like my mom, going to the arena. I'll text you after. But you being there I would think that would be a little bit better because it's not like a 3 hours of not hearing from me and then that too, anticipation, like you see everything.
But Ann, I think when you're with you in fight week, you just seem so happy and so relaxed and excited. Like it seems like that every time you fight, your just energy is so like uplifting that with just being around you during fight week, you're, oh man, this is exactly what she wants to be doing. She's so confident and just gonna go have fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see that during the week I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. That's like even the day of the fight when it's like, all right, we work out in the morning, then I get my hair braided and then, everyone's like, all right, do you want to lay down, take a nap? I'm like, well, I can't take a nap now. I probably should, but I'm like, let's go for a walk. I'm like, let's go for a walk. Let's do something. You, me, and Sarge, we're all just like sitting around, like joking around, laughing and stuff. And I'm like, fun. I don't want to lay down. And then all I'm thinking about is like dead silent. I'm about to fight. Like, yeah.
Another thing I really appreciated Sarge almost. I mean, I've always like respected her and appreciate her, but just being around her and everything she does for you during fight week, I really appreciate. Like, she's obviously an amazing fighter, but she could be an amazing coach if that's something she wanted to get into.
Absolutely.
Like, I felt like me and her were exactly on the same page with like positional stuff. And like, if I didn't say a word, she was going to say what I was already thinking.
Right.
And that's a really good thing. Cause like with Mark, we speak a different language, like literally. He speaks like the codes and all these things that I don't even know. So I felt like not really attached to Mark, but with Sarge, I was like, oh, we're in sync. But you guys, that's so nice. You got your friendship and like training partners and coach. She's amazing to have.
Yeah. Like she's not just, in my corner because she's my friend or my teammate and we like, she's not just like a body during fight week. I actually, I think this was like my third, maybe fourth fight with her there. And I remember after the first one, I'm like, damn, why didn't I always have her here? This is amazing. Like,
she's so good.
Just good energy. She's, great. And like, there's something about it too when you like train with someone and I know she fights, like she gets it like so much on such a very specific level. Like even with like cutting weight, like she knows like sometimes when a guy tells me to do something, I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's different for girls or blah, blah, blah. Like she cuts a lot of weight. She gets it. We do the same stuff. And like, there's just something about like, if she tells me something, I'm like, I like almost like respect it more than like if someone else says the same exact thing.
And I don't know if it comes from like, she's such like a traditional like Brazilian jiu-jitsu background where it's like the gi jiu-jitsu where you're at every tournament and like the coaching is so specific, like you have to get these movements down and these escapes. But I think because of that background really helps her with like an analytical approach to like coaching.
Absolutely. And like on the ground for her coaching, I mean, she spent even way before MMA, she spent, she's like a black belt world champion and she's like gone to tournaments. She's did that grind of years of going to tournaments every week, coaching people at tournaments. So she has that experience of that too. And like, also like for me and her, we spar together all the time. And not only do we spar, I think a big part of it is after every one of our sparring sessions, we talk about it.
Yeah.
And so it's not just spar and then get off and just be like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? We're like, oh, that jab you threw was really good. And like, we kind of like tell each other and I'll be like, yeah, I was trying to throw this, but you kept doing this. And we'll give each other so much feedback. So like, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I wanted to do this, but I didn't think it would work. And she's like, no, you had it if you didn't stop. Like that type of feedback is like super important to like, I think elevating our game. And I think that, you know, me and her are just such a great team. And I think it's like helping both of us so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. So like I said, I think it was like your best performance ever. 3-fight win streak. Everything's amazing, but I think we don't want to dwell on it, but the elephant in the room per se is your last fight under your contract.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like in limbo. You don't know exactly what's going on. Like I know because you're so mentally strong, it didn't like rattle you at all going into it. You put nothing on it. There's nothing. All you had to do is win or, you know, do the best you can. How do you feel about it?
I feel like everyone else is more special, especially you, but everyone else I think is more, I don't know if the word's upset or worked up or emotional.
I'm not upset,
but I think everyone else is more worked up about it than me. And, you know, that's kind of, I knew when I got this fight booked, you know, 13 weeks ago, that's when I learned that, oh, they're not re-signing me. At that point, they want me to, usually when you have one fight left on your contract, they renegotiate your next contract. In this case, they were like, oh no, we want you to fight it out.
And that's usually, not always.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time this has happened.
Right. For other
someone.
people. Yeah. For me, this was the first time. It was always standard.
Yes.
Now, my last fight, I'm like, okay, I'm ranked number 2. I'm coming off two wins, you know, top maybe 5 opponents. So I just thought it was assumed my contract was getting extended. So I was a little shocked at first when it wasn't. But I didn't talk about it because I didn't really, not because like I was embarrassed or anything like that or like it bothered me. I just didn't.
That can't be your focus though.
Yeah. I didn't want the whole narrative of like, she's fighting for her contract. I didn't want that extra pressure. I just didn't want to talk about it because it is what it is. And I don't need to hear other people, because even like right now it's talked about and I hear everyone else's opinion on it.
Right.
And I didn't want to hear anyone else's opinion on it before, especially I don't really want to hear people's opinion on it now, but you get it. Right. And I didn't want to like hear people saying like, that's messed up. Oh, what if you win? What if you lose? It's like, I'm the one doing it. I'm the only one that should be upset about this, you know? So I just didn't really want to talk about it before because I wanted to focus on the fight. And which is why, because then after, obviously everyone finds out and everyone's focused on that. And it kind of sucks because
it takes away from your enjoyment.
Yeah. Like even today, that's like, I can't even like go on social media and read comments or talk to people about it. Cause they're like, it's nice and flattering because everyone's like, they have to resign you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just want one day to like enjoy.
That got taken from you.
Yeah, I want one day to just enjoy the win. I worked so hard for that fight. The fight was really tough. And it's like.
And you beat one of the best girls in the world.
Yeah. And it's like, I just want to enjoy that. And I want like 24 hours to not think about it. It's like the second
she beat Valentina around. She didn't beat you in a round.
Yeah,
you know? She's
exactly.
one of the best girls in the world, and it's an afterthought. Like, oh, I also beat Jennifer Maia yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And to beat someone in the top 5 twice in a row, I mean, so if we fought 6 rounds, I won 5 rounds. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's an accomplishment. I want to enjoy that and kind of not think about. It's like anytime, like even me and Gregor talk about this all the time. The thing we hate is like when you win a fight, they're like, when's your next fight? You're like, Jesus, I want to be able to like, I can't even lift my arms. I'm so sore right now. I want to just like, let me just sleep in one day and then think about the next fight. But this is even like 10 times more.
Right.
But I mean, not saying like, oh my God, it's so annoying to talk about, but it just kind of sucks that it takes away.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on it. Just my only thoughts is the reason that like my frustration comes. I know it's going to work out for you no matter what. Like you're so good. You can't be that talented in fighting and it not work out. Like you're going to get picked up somewhere or, you know, it'll definitely work out for you in terms of like finances, I think. But I just feel that I value the UFC so much. And I always thought of the UFC as like the NFL, like, it's the best organization, the most professional, the best of the best. But if they start getting rid of like, you know, fighters like you, who's, you know, the most wins in the division, 3-fight win streak. We've listed everything that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
If they take you out just because you already lost to the champion, my thought is you need to just get rid of the division. And what I mean is you keep Valentina on, and then you just bring in super fights for her, like more like a boxing thing.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of having the rankings if you're going to eliminate your best girl in the rankings?
Yeah.
Valentina's really out of the rankings, right? She's a champion.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really understand that. And like, it makes, if this were to happen, whatever happens, but then it's really like UFC isn't like the NFL of fighting. It's like the NFL and the WWE, like somewhere in between both of those.
Yeah.
Because there's so much bureaucracy and, outside influences that are, leading to this outcome. Where if it's the best fighters, like nobody cares if the quarterback for the team that wins the Super Bowl is exciting or not, or how many Instagram followers they have. Nobody cares. If you win, that's all that matters in real, professional organizations.
Mm-hmm.
If the Yankees win the World Series and they don't get one hit, but they just all walk and they just get on base, they walk.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, the MMA, UFC is just different.
Yeah.
But I just hope that and I think you do, just how amazing you are at fighting,
I mean, I feel good. Like, even if they weren't going to re-sign me, I almost think of it as like,
they can't afford you.
Yeah, I think it's more of that. I think because...
Well, they can, but
they don't want to. Yeah, because they could pay, they could pay someone that has 2 fights in the UFC, like, I don't even know, like a fifth of what I get.
Right.
The thing is, I've had 14 fights and I've won 10 of them. So every time you win, your pay goes up. I just finished my 3rd contract. So like my pay is pretty good.
Yeah. And they're thinking like, how long is she going to stick around?
Yeah.
What if this keeps happening? And then she's getting like 500,000 to show up.
Yeah.
If it happened for 2 more contracts.
Right.
Not that you're going to fight that long.
No, but I could,
I think they want to like nip that.
Mm-hmm. But then it's interesting because it's like, I wonder, okay, if they cut me, then how are they going to like keep like Jennifer Maya, Laura Murphy?
That's what I mean.
And
you might as well get rid of the division.
And like those girls, then it's like, you're only going to keep like girls that are not in the top 10. Like you're not going to keep the vets basically because they're too good.
Right.
And they beat like all the younger ones.
That's
I don't know.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think that, and first of all, that doesn't mean they're not going to resign me. It's just, I think they were maybe like seeing if I lost this fight, then they could, then I wouldn't be going into a new contract on coming off of a win.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll find out. And people keep asking me like, would you fight somewhere else? Like, obviously if that's my options. Yeah.
In the comments, let us know where you'd like to see Caitlin fight.
Yeah. Everyone was asking if
I'd like to see like somehow affiliate with like Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Because he's the only thing that could fuck with the UFC and he definitely can.
Yeah. I mean, I would like, people are asking like, would you do bare knuckle? Would you do this? I'm like, I mean, I would do anything. Like, I don't care. Like, obviously I want to be in the UFC. That's like, I love it there. Right. So, and I feel like
you're just so good.
And I feel like I've earned that spot. And there's like other people. It's like, it would frustrate me to like not fight for the UFC right now anymore and see like other girls like work their way up. And I would feel like I would have a chip on my shoulder. Like,
of course,
wait, why do they get to stay and not me? I'm better than them.
But then all of them. But like a good thing with though, like because of everything you've done, like financially investing and, different investments and properties, like, you're good.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't even have to fight anymore.
Right.
If I never want to fight again, I'm fine.
Right.
But so it's not that. It's just that I love it.
When you're that good, you want to be like known for,
Yeah.
Because to me, like there's tremendous value in, and I don't even like to say this, but the second best person in the world is astronomically good. They're so fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
But people just have that singular focus of champion. And that's only in the women's division because the men's division will headline a card, the 5th and 6th ranked guy like Giga and Qatar.
Yeah.
Like, why can't they eventually get to that for the women's flyweight? If they promote people and keep them around, then you could have the 3rd and 4th ranked person fight and make it an amazing fight.
It's weird.
But
I
if
feel
you
like
cut them off.
our division's like the only one. Our division, I think the women's bantamweight division is kind of like that. It's the only division where like, unless it's a title fight, no, everyone's just like, oh, they wouldn't be Valentina. But like, like Kamaru Usman's division, like
Right.
when other people in the division fight, they're not like
Vincenzo Luque and Sean Brady. They're not saying, well, they'd lose to Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
They're just, this is an amazing fight.
Exactly. And I just don't, for some reason, I don't know if that's like a promotional thing or whatever, or maybe, the women's flyweight division is the newest division added, not counting like the 145 for girls. That doesn't count. So it does take, and people are like, well, it's been around for a while, but it's still fairly new. I mean, the women's strawweight division has been around for maybe like
twice as long.
Probably like 2 or 3 years longer than the flyweight division. And they really only were like, it was only Johanna until like the last 2 or 3 years. Now you'll see like, Karate Hottie and Mackenzie Dern or something like that, like headline thing. I think it just takes a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm definitely open to fighting anywhere else. UFC is obviously the first choice, but it's kind of frustrating. Like people are like, oh, you could go to Bellator and make so much money. It's not
really about that either.
It doesn't always work like that too. Like not every other organization is paying like crazy amount just because some fighters from the UFC went to other promotions and got paid. That doesn't mean everyone is doing that. I mean, the women's division and other promotions aren't as big as they are in the UFC. So they don't really, they might not, I don't know. You have no idea until you actually talk to them and stuff. But, and I also don't think many, women have been in my position where they're at the top and they get
like peaking. You're
I guess you could say
like so much momentum, like 3 fights in a row, all in the top 5 doesn't really happen. I mean, it happens for if you're the champion, like Kamaru Usman does it, Valentina does it. It happens, but not for people within the rankings.
Yeah. So everyone keeps asking me like, this is Monday after the fight. Like, did you get re-signed? I'm like, it takes a while. They don't call you on Monday morning and talk about it. It takes a while. So
but it's all gonna work out no matter.
Yeah. What. And when I find out what happens, we'll talk about it. So you guys, if I don't say anything, it's because I haven't heard yet.
So we'll get off this. Other fights on the card. I didn't watch a ton of them. Obviously, we watched some afterwards yesterday.
Yeah.
But one thing that was pretty cool was Brian Kelleher. He's like a friend of ours. He trains in Long Island MMA. His opponent tested positive.
Yeah.
At 135, and another fight was at 145, and one of the opponents tested positive. So like 3 days before the fight, they asked Kelleher and this other guy to fight, but Kelleher would have to go up to 145. And he did that after he'd been cutting weight for, months to get to 135, but he bumped up and he won he used like a lot of wrestling. He's usually pretty heavy handed, but he won with a lot of takedowns and really good grappling. I thought like really good. And, I just kind of like that type of attitude. Like, well, whatever.
He's always like that.
And he just steps up and fights.
Yeah.
He's got like,
it's
he's
easier.
Got, like, a dog. Like he's a dog.
Yeah, it's easier like said than done, because sometimes people are like, oh, that's great. He was already there. He didn't even have to cut weight. It's like, yeah, but the other guy's cutting weight. Right. So it's not.
And you've been cutting weight.
Yeah.
It's not like you were like trying to get big and strong for 145. He's been cutting weight.
And
then you step up and fight someone, that much bigger than you and you get the win. I hope they threw him some extra money because that's a big deal.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
Yeah. That's good for him. Then our friend Bill Algeo, he had another good win. He's just an exciting fighter. He's like does fun stuff, like creative striking, but then he added in he had a really nice like body lock, like hip toss almost. He blocked the outside. Really nice takedown.
I kind of like watching him fight because he's kind of like longer and like his striking is like stuff that I could do.
Yeah, he uses those knees where he just pulls them up like
yeah. When I watch his striking, I'm like, it's similar. We fought together. We kind of came up together on the regional scene for CFFC. But yeah, kind of like similar style striking. There's stuff that he does that I'm like, ooh, I like that. I could do that.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed for this fight was his takedowns, and his grappling looked really like aggressive, good takedown grappling. And he's a longtime jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a Tim Carpenter black belt.
Yeah.
And he told me, I talked to him before this fight, and he said that he hasn't trained any jiu-jitsu. He's like,
really?
I'm getting away from jiu-jitsu. Because I think in a couple of his losses, he kind of played off his back some because he's got a really tricky guard.
I get
so
that.
He's like, I'm just wrestling. And I guess he's been wrestling like in Lehigh and like wrestling like really good college
that's
wrestlers
awesome.
and, got experienced wrestlers and just developing more like a grappling, takedown, scramble type style. And it looked like to me that that's kind of the direction he's going, but it was really impressive. Hopefully, he sticks around because he's got a lot of ability.
Yeah, that's kind of the same issue I have when I like got into like MMA is I had such a heavy jiu-jitsu background, but all my jiu-jitsu was off my back and it worked for a long time. And then you get to the UFC, you get to a certain level and it was like, well, if you don't get the submission, you're losing the round off your back.
Right.
So I was like, wait, I'm really comfortable on the back. So I would almost like, concede
the takedown.
Yes, concede the takedown because I'm comfortable off my back. But the person on top isn't trying to advance. They're just holding you there. So I had to kind of switch my style of jiu-jitsu to a more wrestling base for MMA.
Yeah. But then if you have that good jiu-jitsu, like a black belt, brown belt in your case, of like real jiu-jitsu, if you could get the takedown, now you're on top. If you really know what you're doing in jiu-jitsu, it's going to be very hard for the person to get off the bottom. Like
exactly.
In your fight against Maya, you had a beautiful body lock takedown and you went right to half guard and you like blocked the hip and you looked like you were doing real jiu-jitsu.
It felt like jiu-jitsu.
Controlled, like stuck to her. Then she put in a butterfly hook and you like floated off to side control, neon belly, took the back, like real jiu-jitsu because you got on top. But that fusion of wrestling and jiu-jitsu is key. And like what you're doing it and Bill Algelo's doing it, but that's how you really use your grappling and fighting.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Then your fight, obviously we talked about, and the main event we watched yesterday, but that was incredible.
That was so insane. Like I knew obviously it got like fight of the night and everyone was talking about it, but we didn't watch it till the next night. But man, that was crazy.
But when I heard about it, I thought it was a barn burner,
but
it wasn't at all. It was like an ass kicking.
Yeah.
Like the first round, it was kind of looked like Giga was kind of getting the better of the exchanges, but then he sort of slipped for like a second and Qatar just like attacked him. Like
his
he
pressure
on
was
him so hard, got the takedown and beat him up on the ground. And then after that,
he couldn't recover.
It was just, it was insane.
His pressure, like to just say like when someone kicks a lot, the whole thing with them is like you want to put pressure. It's kind of like, I mean, Khabib did this with everyone, but especially him with he kind of shut down. Yeah, or I was gonna say shut down like Edson Barboza. Some people that have like this dangerous type of kicks,
smother
them. But to do that for 25 minutes when someone is still like, I mean, Giga was still landing crazy punches and kicks, and to do that he didn't like just put pressure on him. He put pressure on him every single second that he could, and it was. To be able to do that and have that confidence while getting hit is just, it's like so insane. I feel like
those elbows, he's throwing elbows like punches.
Yeah, he wasn't throwing like Muay Thai elbows.
Not Muay Thai. It looked like a jab, right hand.
At one point, he was going like left, right, elbow, and it was like the same as doing like a 1-2, 1-2.
Exactly.
It was really, really impressive. I think like every time I watch Qatar or Cater, or no,
I don't know.
Qatar, or yeah, Calvin.
Calvin
I feel like I say
it's Qatar.
Yeah, I say it different like every time, and but I feel like every time I watch him fight, I kind of forget. I'm always like, wow, he's like one of my favorite fighters to watch, and then I kind of forget about him for some reason. But
it was crazy because I think his
good.
last fight, I'm not positive. Maybe he had one since Max Holloway, but what he did to Giga is what Max Holloway did to him.
Correct.
Just that overwhelming, just pressure and like a barrage of attacks. But it was really impressive. He's so good. But that's what I mean. Like he's probably not gonna win get a title shot, but he's gonna be a main headliner for
I think I
as
saw
long
like
as he wants.
Is that the same? Is he the same?
Volkanovski.
The same as Yair.
Yeah, Yair.
I think some people are putting. The matchup for him and Yair, him and Ortega.
All amazing matchups.
Has he not fought?
That needs to happen.
I'm like, how is he hasn't fought them? He hasn't fought them yet?
Yeah, maybe not. I guess not.
Yeah. I think both of those would be really interesting.
Yeah, they'd be amazing. Well, there's so many good people because that's a division that's like built up and they have like 7 like superstars.
Right.
He's like he's not like super famous, but he's headlined events now, and people will want to watch him,
especially
because they've promoted him.
Yeah, and him having that performance as a main event on like that card, the first card of the year. I think it was a really good platform. He had like the best performance on that platform. So to
it was on regular ESPN.
Yeah. I thought that fight was amazing.
Yeah, it was sick.
It was so good. That's definitely like one of those fights you like. If you need like to watch a fight to kind of pump you up, it's one of those.
Yeah, it was really cool. So Zane, do we have Am I the Asshole this week?
We do. I'm also making t-shirt mock-up right now. Should we talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah. What do the people want?
Well, we have to ask them.
Yeah. We would definitely want to come up with t-shirts. I feel like, okay, here's my thing with t-shirts. If we get them made, I feel like if you don't have them, everyone's like, oh, where's
your t-shirts?
Where's the merch? When's the t-shirts coming out? And then when they come out, they're like, no one wants to buy one. So we're going to make them because people have been asking. And when they're out, we'll let you guys know and you guys can buy them.
Sounds good. All right. Am I the asshole for exposing my brother's quote unquote counseling business? So, the original poster is 33 male. They have a half brother named Rob, 40 male. They're not very close. Rob is very religious. He's one of those people that has like daily Bible studies with his family. No PG-13 movies, no alcohol.
Oh, wow.
Nothing of that sort. So, he has 2 daughters, 21 and 17. They both hate him. He doesn't really talk to his son. Rob has recently started offering a Christ-based family and marriage counseling at his church. Keep in mind he has no license to do this.
Oh, great.
Okay.
You definitely need to have a license for this in some states. He is an associate pastor. He's semi-retired due to investments. Just some background information.
Nice.
Let's see. So the problem with this all is that Rob is kind of a scumbag to his family. The original poster, his son had a pink shirt and Rob burned it because he thought the color pink was perverse. Rob's daughters were getting bullied in school and he simply said, let's pray about it instead of actually doing anything about it. But one of the original poster's neighbors was asking about Rob's service to the original poster because they're brothers. And not Rob, but does this guy have a name? He doesn't. I'll just keep calling original poster. So the original poster told the neighbor that he shouldn't do it because Rob's basically not a fraud, but he doesn't have a license. He's kind of doesn't practice what he preaches.
Okay.
So the neighbor goes to the church and starts telling mad rumors to everybody.
Okay.
And so now Rob knows, and he's calling the other guys like, why would you say that about me? You're ruining my business, ruining my income. And now the original poster is asking, am I the asshole for saying that about Rob?
For what exactly did he say?
He but told the other guy he doesn't have a license and he's not really that good.
Basically telling him that like the services he's providing, he doesn't really have any knowledge about them because his family life is already so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that you are the asshole.
You would do?
Yeah, it's same like both people. Like that guy, obviously Rob sounds like he sucks, but to sabotage someone's business, like just because you don't agree with how he does it, I don't think is a good thing to do. Like, just don't recommend him. Don't, but to kind of like sabotage someone's business because you don't like them or you don't like how they operate. I don't think that's a good thing to do.
I don't, but I think if the guy,
I don't like tattletales either.
Right.
Like, oh, he doesn't have a license. Like, I hate tattletales.
I agree.
Almost regardless as to no matter what Rob's doing, aside from like, molesting kids or something, like I would never tell on anyone for anything.
I agree. But if a friend came up to, like, if a friend came up to him and asked him, hey, I'm thinking about it. If they're friends, I think you should tell them.
Well, you could say, I don't know.
Well, he said
his family's shot. They're a mess. But I wouldn't go in far as like say like, oh, he doesn't even have a license.
I would tell my friend that.
Yeah.
If my friend,
I would say he's a mess, man. What do you don't want to talk to him? His life's a disaster.
If it's someone
I would say more like that.
If it's someone I didn't know and asked, I probably would just be like, yeah, I don't really know. If you want to, I don't really know. But if it was like a friend of mine that asked, I for sure would be spilling the tea. I for sure would be like, it depends. It all depends. How close are you with that person and stuff? But yeah, this guy's a mess. Like, I don't know. It's pretty weird. Like, but also if you're like if you're looking for counseling and you're going like at your church, like how do you not know? That's on you for not doing your due diligence and like doing your research. Like if I would need to go somewhere for a counselor, I'm not just like going to some random dude at my church unless he's like has a,
well, yeah,
you know what I mean? If you're going to be going to a counselor, make sure it's someone legit. That's on you. You need to be an adult and do your research on that. If my friend asked me though, if it was a friend that asked, I don't think he's an asshole. If it's like some random person and he's kind of like throwing him under the bus, but I also wouldn't want to recommend him if I knew he shot.
Well, you don't need to recommend him, but I don't like the tattle.
No, definitely not. If it's unless it's a friend, I think.
Right. But it's funny because if someone's like so mentally weak that they can't watch a PG-13 movie because it might like adversely affect them, then their like life experience is they're so bubble wrapped that how can you give any like advice on a relationship? Like if someone's like, oh, I think my wife is cheating on me, and you don't even watch PG-13 movies, how can you really give like input or advice on what he should be doing to, maybe you're not satisfying her or whatever, you know, like you don't even watch PG-13 movies.
Right.
And you're giving relationship advice.
That's a really good point.
It's ridiculous. Like Rob sucks.
Yeah. Rob definitely sucks. And like, it's just weird, but that's why it's kind of hard for me to like take advice from many people because everyone's like got their own shit. So like,
for sure.
You know, like this guy is getting mad at his son for wearing a pink t-shirt and he's giving life advice to people. Like that's insane.
It's insane.
But that's why it's hard to trust anyone for advice. That's why if you have someone in your life that whether it's like a family member or a friend or just someone that you do go to for advice, like you're really lucky because not everyone has like someone like that.
When I used to coach college wrestling at the University of Pennsylvania, speaking of not watching PG-13 movies, there's these two brothers on the team and they were like some like weird sect of like Christianity, but we would travel to matches, you know, and they would put on like a DVD player on the bus and they'd play like a movie like, you know, like Wedding Crashers or Old School or, you know, some movies like that, like PG-13 R type, simple, like the popular movies. Of that
The Hangover.
Time. Hangover. Those two, both of them would go into the bathroom on the bus. The bus bathroom, it's a tiny little thing, but both of these guys, they were like big guys, would go in there so they didn't want to be exposed. They weren't allowed to be exposed to movies like that. And they would just sit there and like with a flashlight and read the Bible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you have to go in the bathroom? Can't you just
because they couldn't be exposed to it.
Couldn't you just like put a blanket over your head or like close your eyes?
That's where they stayed. So if people wanted to use the bathroom, knock, then they'd get out and like cover their eyes.
So at that time where the whole team was just so used to it, it wasn't even weird. It wasn't like, that's wild.
I remember one time they were like, "Can we watch our own movie?" And I think it was Remember the Titans they put on. They were able to watch
it's
that.
not a bad movie.
No, it was good. Yeah. So yeah, we watched that.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah, but that's just such a bizarre thing. Like what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I don't know. I watched on a plane one time this documentary about this like family that had I think like 6 or 7 sons or like 7 sons and they were all in like they lived in Brooklyn or Manhattan and they all lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment and they never let the sons out of the apartment, like very rarely. I think like maybe like twice a year. And they did like in this like small, I think it was like a 2-bedroom apartment and they taught them everything but they were allowed to watch movies. They didn't have like a specific religion. It was just, they didn't want them exposed to all the outside world and they were like scared of everything. And then finally they just like broke free and were like, we're not doing this anymore. It was like the father that was like.
At what age? How old were they?
I think they were like late teenagers.
But they knew nothing of the real world?
No, they watched movies all the time. So what they knew was from movies. So like they were like obsessed with like Pulp Fiction and they would reenact all they would do all day. And like, think about how small like a New York City apartment is. And they would just reenact movies from beginning to end nonstop all the time. They were like, they said if it wasn't for movies, they wouldn't like survive.
That's so strange.
It's just weird that happens.
Anytime you like shelter someone, like you can't wear a pink shirt or you can't watch this movie, like sheltering is like one of the worst things in the world.
I think so.
Like you want to expose to more things you're exposed to, the better you are at everything.
I think so. I think you're able to make up, like, that's how you grow as a person and decide what you like. Like if you only, are exposed to a little bit of things, you don't even know what else is out there. You'll never know what you actually like.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is be like, is involved and exposed to as many possible things. Like, just like you're investing, you have to diversify.
Yeah.
Like get into a lot of things. If you just insulate someone and like, you can't do this, you can't do that, don't watch this, it really makes for like not much of a person.
Mm-mm. I always wonder, like when you're like, for us, like when you're younger in religion, it's just whatever your family does, that's what you do, and you're going to it, and that's it. Sometimes some families like have pressure where then they need to extend that on to their kids and their family. I always wonder why there isn't like almost like a group pass for religion, where it's like something where you do like a year for like each religion, and then as a kid, and then you decide which one you want to do. Like, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
But like everyone's just does whatever their family was.
Yeah.
I mean, very rarely do they change. I guess some people change when they get married and stuff like that, but I never understand why that's not a thing. Why you have to be like born and raised one thing. I'm like, if you want to be like expose your children to religion, like wouldn't the smartest thing to do to be like 1 year of like each religion and then like let them pick, just like they do with sports or like school and classes, what you want to do. I never understand. That's like never talked about ever at all. No. And I'm like, it's so weird that you just like, well, your parents picked this, you have to believe this, and like you have to go. I don't know. Religion as like I get older is like, not to get like too deep, it's such a weird concept to me that I never like, I don't understand. I just feel like it's like brainwashed. It's creepy. It's weird. And like, I understand it brings people together and it's nice, but I don't think that means you're a nice person. I think there's other values that are more important to teach. I just think it's just so weird. I don't understand it. Like, I don't know. You just like spend like an hour a week going into this building and everyone's just sitting there looking around. No one's very many people went to church, like want to be there. Yeah. You're just there because you think that's what you're supposed to do. That makes you a good person. And it's like, well, you could spend that hour like with your family, like cooking a meal together and like spending time together and talking about your day. I feel like that's more like beneficial than having some random person that like is telling you what to do and God knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't get it, but fuck Rob.
Yeah.
What about fan questions?
Okay. First we got, what's the hardest part about losing a fight? What does the fighter know and feel that we don't know about? I mean, I think this could be different based on the individual. I think that for the hardest part about losing a fight is like, you work so hard and then you lose, and then the next day you're just supposed to get over it. And like, I think now with social media, people saying like, oh, you suck. It's like the same fight could have went that way and the one judge could have went one way. Or even like, you could do everything right, train so hard. And, especially in MMA, there's just so many ways to win and so many ways to lose a fight that like shit happens. And like, you could do everything right. And just like, the person either gets a lucky shot, you make one little mistake and that's it. You get finished or something like that. And it's just like, so much work and you can't really make a mistake. Like I don't know, like for me, I know when I got lost to Andrade from a body shot, I was like, this sucks. Like I got hit with a body shot. It wasn't like I got like fucked up.
Right.
But that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. And then it's like, 20 seconds after the punch, I feel totally fine, but that's it. And it's like, you can't train for that. Like, it's stuff like that. You just have to accept it. And like, you have to really be able to like move on. And I think the only way you get that is through another fight. And also I think the biggest part about losing that sucks is that your paycheck gets cut in half. That I think is the worst. I think if you got paid the same no matter if you win or lose, same pay.
Emotionally, it'd be easier to cope with.
It would be a lot easier to cope with because, it would still be upsetting for sure if you care about the sport. I mean, I'm sure there's some fighters that just fight for money and don't really care. But
even then.
But then it's
if
more
you're fighting
so
for money, you care.
Yeah.
Right.
But
If you get a flat rate, then
yeah. But losing that half of it, that's probably like the worst thing.
Yeah, because when you think about it, because you always think, well, if you're getting paid 100 and 100, that's what you're thinking. I'm getting paid 200.
Mm-hmm.
So when you lose, you don't look at it like you won 100. You look like it that you lost 100.
Yep.
No matter what.
Absolutely.
Because in your head, you're thinking, well, I'm going to
win. Yeah.
But they call it a win bonus, but I don't think anyone thinks of it as like a bonus.
No.
A bonus is like performance bonus or like, fight of the night bonus. The win bonus, you always assume you're going to win. So it doesn't feel like you win 100,000 or whatever. It feels like you lost 100.
Yeah. And when you're early on in your career, you're not getting paid as much. So when you lose, you're like, oh, well, if I was getting paid more, then it wouldn't matter. And then but that's what I always thought. And then when you get paid more, you're like, well, I'm losing more. You're never like, well, what I'm getting paid to lose is way more than what I got paid to win when I first started, but it doesn't matter. You're losing that money. That's what you always think like, well, the other part's better, so definitely the money's probably the hardest part. And then, losing sucks, but like you get over it. Just get another fight and win.
Yeah.
Next one. Thoughts on moving to Bantamweight. I feel like now with the whole contract thing, everyone keeps asking me this. It's like, if I'm number 2 on a 3-fight win streak, I don't think I should have to move divisions. It doesn't really make sense. I think if I was on a 3-fight losing streak, maybe then people look to move to different weight divisions for a fresh start. I don't think I'm there. But that being said, like I would fight at 35. I have before, but I like 25. I think it's the perfect division for me. Yeah, I don't know. I would, but I don't want to. I want to stay at flyweight.
Yeah, it's interesting because just the last couple months, I feel like I could think of like 3 fights that I would love to see at flyweight.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see you fight Miesha Tate. I would love to see you fight Tatiana Suarez.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see you fight Santos, Talia Santos. I'd love to rematch with Andrade. Yeah. Right, there's 4 fights.
Exactly.
That 3 of them you've never fought. There's 4 legit fights at flyweight that I think are really cool. Then you're having a real division.
Yeah.
If you get rid of the people because they are getting too good, get rid of the division. But 135, whatever. I think you do fine there.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's like crushing you there.
Yeah.
You beat one of the best girls in the division.
Yeah.
At the division. I
beat Aldana at 135. I think she's ranked like
2nd or 3rd.
3rd. Yeah. Something like that. So yeah. Did I feel any more pressure than usual with Kyle cornering me? It's funny how many people asked this.
So many.
No, I didn't. I don't know if people realize, 1, that you have cornered me before. 2, that you've cornered, a lot of professional fighters, UFC and outside. So, and you watch me train quite a bit. I've sparred where you've coached me in not only in wrestling, but MMA sparring. So it wasn't like it wasn't like your first time cornering, your first time coaching me. So I think people don't realize that. So that's why they ask. But no, it didn't. There was definitely no more pressure. No,
I don't think I had any pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. It wasn't added pressure for me. It was totally fine. You've coached me and cornered me before, and you do it all the time. Like, you're a wrestling coach. Right. And
it was weird because a few people like messaged me. They're like, Coach Kyle, like almost like sarcastically, like Coach Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm definitely not your coach, but like, I am a coach. Like, I've coached dozens of UFC fights.
Yeah, like people almost thought like, oh my God, it's so funny. Kyle's cornering.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
wait.
Like, I'm like just like a podcaster. Like, I've coached in the NCAA finals, the US Open, Olympic trials finals. Like, I've been in the corner of some major events.
Like, you've cornered like Gregor for most of his fights, Dennis Bermudez, Chris Wade, like LaFleur, like so many people. And they're like, oh, haha, Kyle's coaching.
They thought it was like a cute, silly thing that I'm in the corner.
Like, yeah, like it's your coaching debut. I'm like, you've probably cornered more than most people and coached more. You were like coached at
major universities.
Yeah, Division I. Yeah. So I don't know. It
was weird.
I think maybe people just
Coach
don't.
Kyle.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that. But yeah, definitely interesting. Okay, this is an interesting one. I feel like this is good for you to answer. Someone says, I have a great coach, but super limited in sparring and training partners.
That's definitely
for MMA
a problem. I always think that you need 3 different types of training partners. You need someone who's much better than you. You need someone who's much worse than you. And you need someone who you're even with.
Mm-hmm.
The person you're even with is who you'll scrap with. That's who you'll like really like push your cardio, push your toughness, be like more like a real fight. The person you're way better than, that's the person that you try new things on, you experiment, you develop new skills.
Kind of get confidence.
You build your confidence. And then the person better than you is someone who, that's the person who keeps you humble, shows you the potential that's out there, and keeps you motivated. So I think minimum you need 3 partners, all of varying degrees, but really probably you need like, 2 of each of those, six good partners. So regardless of how good the coach is, I think that you either need to start bring your own training partners, which is difficult, or you kind of need to go to a place where there's better partners. I think the partners are more important than the coach, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I think that the coach is good maybe in the beginning stages of your training, but I don't know, maybe not. I just think the training partners are so big. If you have a great coach, first of all, there's a lot of great coaches out there, right. If this is your first coach.
But if there's if there's good training partners at a different school and there's like a room full of good training partners, then that coach is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. There's a reason that your coach doesn't have good training partners for you.
And if your coach is that good, they would tell you you need to have better training partners. I think a lot of times, especially like in MMA or martial arts, whether it's jujitsu, people are big on like loyalty, and they think if the coach or instructor is really pushing loyalty, that's not good.
Right.
They need, they're like talking about loyalty, not wanting, it's huge, especially jujitsu is really crazy like this, where they don't want you training at other gyms. I think that is an insecurity thing. And I think that's a shitty instructor. If the person does not gives you shit or gives you something for training at another gym whenever you want, that's not a good coach in my opinion. No matter who it is, I think that's just like a confidence thing. They don't want you going to other places because they don't want you learning things from them. They want you to think that they're the only and the best person. And I think that's a really, really toxic trait. That's a huge thing in martial arts, especially jujitsu, but all of martial arts. Like if your coach is like trying to keep it's a weird thing. Like martial arts coaches, they are almost like jealous boyfriends. Yeah. It's so crazy to me.
They don't want to see what else is out there.
Yeah. And if you really like that coach, but you need training partners, then split up your time. Do work with them. If you're in camp, go travel, train with other people, and go back and forth. You can do both.
The interesting thing about like a good coach for MMA is a lot of times what makes a good coach, they train a lot of good people, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what'll happen, I think, is a coach will get hot. Like they'll get someone who's good. Like say Trevor Whitman was working with Rose Namajunas, or I don't know who was first, but
Gagey.
Then someone like the next person, Justin Gage, is like, oh wow, well Trevor Whitman does really good with Rose. I should work with him. And then Usman says, oh wow, Usman, that's where I should go. And I think that happens a lot. So then like a good coach looks like an insanely good coach. Mm-hmm. Like I think that happened with like Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Like he started with Frankie, and then people are like, well,
in the area,
I see how good Frankie is. I want to work with Frankie. So then Frankie gets a partner, and then both of them are good. They're like, oh my God, they're both killing it. And then it grows and grows and grows because like the partners come in, like the best fighter attracts.
And they all level each other up.
Sarge came to train in Jersey. If you weren't there, is it really that attractive?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think that levels up. So you need the training partners 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. How do you usually start your day? Workout? Meal plans?
I don't think meal plan is not how people start a day. That's like done at night.
Maybe they mean like, what do you eat?
Oh, okay. So what do you do?
It's so hard because like whoa.
Oops, sorry.
My it's empty anyway.
Yeah.
My schedule is like different all the time, but how I like to start my morning if I have time, and you know, there's nothing I love more than a leisurely morning. I prefer, like, that's how I know I think I'm getting older. Like, I prefer to wake up earlier to have more time to like do things in the morning rather than just get up, put on clothes and leave the door. That I don't like. But I like waking up, making espresso, coffee, having that, sitting down and like having that, and then make it just, I don't know, just something about having coffee and sitting down. Like if I have time, I like sitting down, putting the TV on, or just going through my phone, sitting on the couch, drinking my coffee. If it's nice out, not in the winter time, I like sitting outside, having my coffee, and then getting food, start the day.
Right.
I like to work out in the morning. You know, this, if it's like a total day off, like a Sunday, you know, I like doing that, getting a workout and then going on. But it depends on the day. Sometimes then I go to the gym and start going. But I like doing that. It's hard for me to say workout in the morning because working out's kind of my job. So then I go, you know, but if it's like a full day off, like, and I like to get a workout in at home. But I really like to just wake up and like have coffee and just sit there and enjoy it. I'm not like obviously I'm not like a meditator or like someone that's like, I journal or I do my affirmations. Like, I think that's all super corny to me. But I guess my time or whatever, even if it's by myself, is like having coffee, sitting on the couch or sitting outside and just like taking my time and enjoying it rather than being like, all right, get up and go.
Right. For me, like mornings, ideally, I like to get a workout in. No matter what time I have to wake up, I like to do something before I start my day. Even if it's like, if I have to get up like super early, like 4 a.m. or something, I'll do like a few just hanging on the pull-up bar, like 3 sets hanging for a minute on the pull-up bar. But ideally, I like to get my first workout in, like do a full workout, then go do what I have to do. Not a long one, like a half-hour workout.
Yeah, like a lift at home.
Yeah, lift at home or like a 10-minute airdyne, something like that. But after that, then, you know, I don't really have much routine after that. Always coffee.
Yeah. But you're more of like the slam the coffee as you go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all we got.
So that's that.
That's all we got.
All right. Thanks for listening. Follow us, leave us a review. Tell us who you want Blonde Fighter to fight next.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.